Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You won't know this. We do recordings now because for some reason Discord takes so much bandwidth, craps out on our Twitch feeds. But this will be a recorded show for YouTube. But for us, it is 12, almost 12:30 my time, 11:30 your time on a Tuesday, technically Wednesday, and we just have to talk about the John Cena farewell of it all. If you listen to the show and you don't know that John Cena retired on Saturday, did you run out of porn to watch? Why are you here? It should be obvious, though, that if you are here, you know that John Cena retired, and you probably have some feelings about that. Let's start with some baselines. John Cena, despite what the WWE will shove down your throat, is not the greatest of all time. Um, he was a average worker, if that. Incredibly charismatic, below average athlete in the ring, ran like a duck, hit the rings like a goose, wrestled like a turkey. No goat to be found. But what he did was he was a very charismatic person who elicited very strong reactions from the crowd. Now, to be fair, most of those reactions were because we were getting something we didn't want. But when you bully someone long enough, you develop a begrudging respect, and I feel that's what's happened to Cena historically is that people started to respect him for the shit he ate. Never lashed out, never said they're idiots. He always kind of just said, hey, they're allowed to have their opinions. And I think that endeared him to a lot of people. Still didn't make a lot of his matches good, like at all. um, we went through periods from like 2007, whenever the Umaga stuff was, because I think that was probably the apex. Really, if we're being honest, he had maybe three or four good matches in his early days when he was, a prime athlete, which again still isn't that prime. He had a really good bloody brawl with JBL,
Yeah.
2005. What was that? Judgment Day, I want to say. Then he had another great kind of knockdown drag out situation with Umaga. That was
Yeah.
pretty good, but I wouldn't say that was groundbreaking. This is when WWE was getting lapped by Ring of Honor and New Japan and even TNA. I would say that if we're being honest here, because Triple H is not a good worker, he's shit. His match with Cena and his match with Shawn Michaels, I should say, was pretty good at WrestleMania, and then his hour draw was also very good. I think that was probably better than his Mania match with Shawn. But
Yep.
really, like outside of like those matches, it wasn't until Batista. Because I think he had a really good match with Batista. Because Batista had, again, Batista's not a great athlete, but Batista had really good ring psychology. Really knew how to make a match, hum. But it wouldn't be until like 2015 when he started doing or 2016 when he started doing the U.S. Open Challenge where he would have the matches with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and then he would eventually get to tussle with AJ Styles, where we started to talk about real next level, major type of iconic performances. So it took him a while. It took him until his late 30s to really start delivering those kind of bangers that Styles was having 10 years prior. Good promos, sold a lot of merch, made a lot of money. Greatest of all time? No. Greatest draw of all time? Hell no. Did he establish himself as somebody within the WWE hierarchy and legacy as someone you could rely on? Yes, absolutely. Um, was he as beloved behind the scenes as he was with the fandom and the old folks and the kids? With the Make a Wish. Hell no. So many guys have stories to tell about how Cena screwed them over. Wade Barrett, Alex Riley, I think Nick Nemeth. What was the other one? I just had his fucking face. It was Alex Riley, Kenny Dykstra.
Mm,
Some of these guys will have varying degrees of conversations about working with Cena and what it was like with Cena. Now, Nemeth may have been more because of the Nikki Bella of it all, but for the most part, I would say there's a lot of guys, some of whom haven't even discussed it yet, who don't like Cena. I don't know if
real
that's
quick,
yeah,
was the Kenny thing because of the Mickey of it all?
I'm sure it was. Kenny was
Mm,
with Mickey, and then as the story goes, John went in and well, um, rucked the fool and then treated her to a dose of "You Can't See Me" because
that
he actually
that's
like fucked her over pretty good. So I'm pretty sure Mickey doesn't
it's
think too highly of him.
yeah, it's interesting. That's like almost another parallel with my boy Dave because I guess you remember what happened with Lena.
Yeah, a lot
Uh,
of people gave Melina
yeah,
shit, and Dave went to bat for her, and it actually kind of backfired. And as the story goes from that actually resulted in Batista and Booker getting into a fist fight at a SummerSlam production shoot because the way Booker had treated Melina. And according to Fit Finley, not Booker, but Fit Finley says Dave Batista won that fight. Considering Booker T has now been accused of kind of looking past issues that the women in his school deal with and
yeah.
downplaying them, I'm starting to think maybe Booker is full of shit. But who am I to say? This all takes us though to draws, issues, matches, bad storylines, good storylines. All that aside, we're not doing a retrospective of Cena's entire career. We're talking about the last 12 months from the Royal Rumble 2005 into Saturday night's main event this past Saturday. We are looking at whether or not this was a run that truly warranted, the time is now. There's been some complaints about his last year, creatively speaking. We can look to WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber, and the Royal Rumble as the worst. But we could also look at the talent selection. I told you this off air, and I'll repeat it now. John Cena worked with exactly one person who was under 30 years old, and that was Dominic Mysterio. Dom's 28. He wrestled someone else that you could quote unquote classify as young, and that would be Logan Paul. But Logan Paul doesn't need the rub. He is pretty established, not as a wrestler, but as a personality. But like Ray is almost 50, Sheamus is almost 50, Finn's almost 50, McDonough's almost 40. Styles is 50, I think, or is about to be. Sami Zayn is 40 or pushing 40. Same with McIntyre. Cody Rhodes is 40. R-Truth is in his 50s. Jay Uso is 40. We'll check that. Randy Orton is pushing 50. Jay Uso 40 yet? He is 40. Um, Punk is pushing 50. Priest is in his mid 40s. And then I'm not counting the Royal Rumble, although if you look at it, the WWE roster is old. It is very fucking old. And that was a big complaint with John Cena. Now, some people are trying to compare it to Sting's final outing, especially at, what was it, Revolution when he retired in the main event. You know,
Disrespect.
a lot of people are like, well, Cena put over Gunther. Gunther's 37. He is one of the most iconic wrestlers of his generation. Just because the WWE doesn't view him in that way doesn't mean he isn't. He is a bona fide S tier talent that this industry has ever seen. John Cena losing to Gunther didn't help Gunther. Gunther was already there. So that was a match that didn't need to happen. But if you look at Gunther going over Cena, as opposed to Sting and Darby going over the Young Bucks, people are drawing the comparison that like, well, Cena, he tried to put people over on the way out. Sting didn't. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not an AEW guy. I liked AEW for a time when CM Punk and Sting were in it. I like Orange Cassidy, I like Danhausen, I like Darby Allin and a few others, but I'm not an AEW guy. I'm not going to sit here and rep them. I will say though
Yeah.
that the more instances Sting had with younger guys in AEW, or I should say not younger, in the case of like, Orange Cassidy, because he was probably 37, 38 at the time, less established names, Sting's involvement with those guys elevated them higher than a match with Cena in his final year. Now, to be fair, when Cena
Yeah.
wrestled Sami Zayn, some 10 years ago, that was a big deal for Sammy.
Hmm.
But he didn't have that same impact on any one guy. Everyone will be like, well, Dom beat him. Well, Dom beat him with the help of Liv Morgan, so that doesn't really help you any. And Dom also is probably, in the eyes of many, the top heel in the company. So I don't see how that's effective. It's like putting chocolate on chocolate. All right, cool. You added more chocolate, but here's the get. It doesn't taste different. It still just tastes like chocolate. So like, what did you really add?
Yeah.
So looking
Yeah.
at all these
Uh,
names, Marcus, all of them,
mhm.
all of them are closer to retirement than anything else. Most of these guys are out of their primes. So the talent selection and the involvement in putting guys over for Cena vastly different than what Sting did. Sting, and now granted, Sting had a
Yeah.
longer time period. Sting was with AEW for 3 or 4 years. I don't even think we need to say. I think I can probably go look it up. I bet you over the course of Sting's AEW career, he probably had as long or probably had as many matches in his time in AEW as John Cena has had. Let's look this up.
And a quick thing while you're looking that up, he the Sting man retired last year, correct?
Sting retired 2024.
We in 2024 for those that's trying to elevate Sting's retirement over Sting. We in 2024 after all the years of tenure in wrestling, and the Bucks still need to go over. That's a different problem and a completely different conversation. Clearly,
Yeah,
the people that want to make that argument don't want to have.
and I think that's a point to really try to get across was that the Young Bucks, putting Sting over on his way out didn't hurt the Young Bucks.
At all.
No. All right. So Sting had, let's do some simple math. 16, 22, 29 matches, give or take, in AEW. John Cena had 26, 27, 28. From 2022 to 2025, John Cena had one less match than Sting had in his entire run in AEW.
And,
There's something to
and,
that.
and and even more math on that. And I'm lobbing this up to Chad because Sting's his guy.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
willful ignorance continues. How many of those Sting matches, of him not putting people over, right? How many of those matches in Sting's last run were tag matches, and who were they with, and why were they with that guy?
it was with Darby, and it was with Darby to help get Darby over. I think Darby is a talent who, because like listen, the four pillars concept in AEW is a joke. Um,
Yeah.
Jack Perry can't get over. I keep wanting to call the other one bad Alex Garcia.
Sammy Guevara.
Sammy Guevara, thank you. Um,
Yeah.
he's a lower mid card at best. Um, MJF, I think, is an upper mid card guy. He's not a main eventer. He's not a headliner. He's not a draw. He's not like one of the five guys you build a company around. That being said, he is a good hand and he does get heat. And I do think his feud with Mystico is probably feud of the year. But we're gonna
Hmm.
vote about that. Um, but I think of all four of them, Darby Allin was the only one that had realistic main event fan potential. Like he encapsulated all the popular things that Jeff Hardy did. He had this aura about him, an ambiance. He had a unique style. He, was a skateboarder who took risks. He was a stunt guy, just like Jeff. But the difference was that I think Jeff is more charismatic than Darby. I think Darby's a better promo than Jeff. But they still have ways of connecting with the audience. And because you paired him with Sting, even though I think Darby was always going to get there, I think Sting helped him get there
Hmm.
faster.
Absolutely.
So when you think about what Sting's involvement with Darby did for Darby, I can't look at anything John did over the last 4 years or what have you, and say with any real certainty that I think John did better. Little quick clarification: John technically had more matches
Hmm.
than Sting since 2021. But if you look at just their last 4 years in the business, from 2024 to 2021, and from 2025 to 2022, Sting had more matches.
Yeah, and if we clear in that level of time, I guess the youngest person John actually put over, which ultimately didn't mean spit because um WWE's all for one got booted out the company, and Vince was Austin Theory.
Yeah, yeah, I think he did that. What, at WrestleMania 2023? I think.
Yeah, well, ultimately, where did that go? They freaking paired him with what's his face, and they became something down under.
A Town Down Under.
Yeah, thank you. The A Town Down Under. So like, and now, he's potentially running with Raw's main the Vision, but that was a huge gap of that time where like, what are you doing with this kid? He's actually young. He actually is a potential stud potentially. Um, but yeah, Cena threw him alive too. But again, much like what happened with Fandango and Jericho, it ultimately didn't go nowhere. And I think the reason why this is a healthy discussion, particularly like right now, I think I'm gonna fully watch Raw after we get off. But the only reason I definitely want to get your take on this, why I could see that's clearly benefiting Gunther right now for beating Cena is because he so desperately needed to get his heat back after losing to somebody he should have never lost to
Are we
in
talking
Jey
about?
Uso.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
needed it.
That was not good. Trying to see
What's
something.
even worse about it took Cena longer to tap out than it took Gunther to tap out to Jay with his own move.
Yeah, they did Cena dirty. And I know the arguments can be like, well, John wanted this. John's a company man, which, one, don't ever be a company man. The company doesn't give a fuck about you.
Hey,
Just
big
flat
fact.
out. But two, just because you're a company man doesn't mean you should be, and it doesn't mean that you should just eat shit. I think the funniest thing, yeah, I'm going through it now. Like I'm just hitting them all. John hasn't had a good WrestleMania match in a decade. That's fucking
Mm,
wild. That's since he was 38 years old when he beat Rusev. And the funny thing was, he shouldn't have beaten Rusev.
that's an ongoing theme in his career, by the way.
he always beats the wrong guys, and he always loses to the wrong guys. So it's so indicative and so spot on and so just absolutely fucking stupid. He beat Bray Wyatt the year before. Just absolutely fucking. Now listen, Bray Wyatt shouldn't. I don't think Bray Wyatt was ever the guy the fans wanted him to be. So like that one never bothered me. But just looking at his body of work, right? Over the last 10 years, Cena has been absolutely just unimpressive in the ring. And his matches kind of highlight that. The people he beat highlight that. And his last year in wrestling highlights that. If you look at the guys he beat, the matches he had, I really can't sit here and tell you that he had one really good match. I think his Styles match might be the apex, right? I think if you're
Yeah.
looking at his best match over the back half of of his career, right? It was with
Hmm.
Styles. But even his Styles match wasn't that great, not compared to the prior ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of indicative to this whole run. Um, it just has been good. Marcus, has there been a part of this
Yeah.
whole thing that you think were good?
If I had the three matches off the top of the head, I'd say obviously the one with Styles because they always find a way to create magic, and I think it just obviously what they did with that match was special not only between the two. And speaking of him going off script, the one time he did go into business, ironically for himself, was when he did that thing where he had the announcer kind of do a written tribute that he did to him before the match. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Um, oh yeah, so he had the announcer kind of rattle off for like a special message of announcing styles and call him the greatest of all time, and this, that, and the third, some good stuff. And he didn't clear it with anybody. He went out there and kind of just set it up to happen. So
Hmm.
outside of that, I don't know how much of this he went into business for himself. He said that in an interview. But if I had to rank the matches, I'd say the Styles one. Maybe after that, the one he had with Cody, and then after that, the one he had on SmackDown with Sammy.
I think most
I think the Styles, yeah,
I think most people would agree with you.
yeah, and yeah, and I think with Styles and Sammy, though, I think they also we could agree that that has more to do with Sammy and Styles than anything else. Cody is Cody. He ain't really, but I did think that match needed to be the way that it was because it was also them needing to, and we call this the minute they started doing the heel thing, which we're gonna get to. We knew he was not going to end this run as no heel.
No.
It wasn't happening. It was never happening like that. Come hell or high water, he was ending that run as a face. So that match was the turning point in that to get him back to Super Cena, of what was left of Super Cena. And yeah, so that was the thing. But yeah, to your point, it was just look, he came back and God bless him. He had lost hair, he had lost body mass, and he had clearly lost a step. And to his credit, that's why he wanted to end the run because he was like, dude, I am washed and I need to go.
And I get that. Like I don't think
Yeah.
anyone should be debating on if this was the right time for Cena to retire. You could make an argument that he probably should have retired. He's when back to his cage match. I wouldn't say. Let's see. I would say he probably should have retired 2021. I think he had that match with Brock at SummerSlam. No, it was
Yeah, when
Roman.
Rob, okay, yeah.
I think that should have been it. Personally, it was a solid match. People seemed to like it, and it was the way to go. But he's stuck around, stunk up the joint, just looked awful because his knees started to go. Whatever quickness he had was gone,
Yeah.
and it was over, and it became pretty obvious that it was over. Um, as far as his last run goes, we've talked to death about the heel turn, and really everything they did was wrong. He should have won the Royal Rumble. If you're gonna make this big to do, the last great champion, right? He should have won the Royal Rumble, especially not over or fucking not under Jey Uso. The Royal Rumble is ass these days. Just fucking terrible. I show Speed was in the Royal Rumble this year. Like, what are we fucking doing? Cena should have won. If this whole year, and it was about Cena's retirement, he should have won the Royal Rumble. He then goes to the Elimination Chamber, beats CM Punk, so that he could go to the main event of WrestleMania or what have you. Because like, why the fuck would you have Jey Uso win the Royal Rumble and not main event of WrestleMania? But I digress. Also, why are there two main events of WrestleMania? That's fucking stupid. Have him not turn heel, because the way they turned him heel is fucking stupid. Rock's like, I own your soul, and then who was it? Travis Scott came out and broke Cody's eardrum, and then you never saw The Rock or Travis Scott again, and it was just fucking terrible. I don't mind Cena beating Cody at WrestleMania, but I think the better option would be to set up a long-term feud. Maybe have Randy Orton come back. Now, granted, that's gonna be counterintuitive to what I think Cena should have done, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think the better way for Cena to go out is for him not to get the 17th and have him eat like like some type of interference and allow Cody to win. So like for the sake of argument, let's say The Rock comes down. The Rock goes to hit Cody. Cena jumps in front of Cody, takes the blow. Cody takes out The Rock. Cody looks at Cena and Cena waves him on like, I did this. I took that shot. Don't you dare go easy on me now. I know what I'm doing. I know who I am, so just go and fucking do it. And it can be like a better version or a similar version of the I'm sorry, I love you. And you could have done
Mm.
it that way. And it could have been this great WrestleMania moment, which we don't get anymore. We get, social media trends and what have you. You could have had Cena have a heartfelt loss to Cody. Cody could have raised his hand and Cena could have waved to the crowd the last time he's ever at WrestleMania. And maybe he still wins the IC belt, right? But I
Mhm.
think, outside of those first 3 months, after that, I would basically just be like, kind of like, if you're Cena, you start going, hey, I'm done in 8 months, 9 months. And then that's it. I'm not going to do a greatest hits tour.
Mm.
And you have him cut a promo the night after WrestleMania where he says, I want the best of every guy in their prime because I want one more shot at the title at Survivor Series. And I'm going to go through as many of the best contenders I can to get there. And if they think I've done enough, it's not an undefeated streak. If they think I've done enough, I hope they give me one more shot. And then you could have them, take on Jacob Fatu or Braun Breaker, still one of the worst fucking names I've ever heard in my goddamn life. Holy shit. You could have him take on Dom. You could have him take on Carmelo Hayes. You could have him take on,
Yeah.
God, so much of their roster's over 35, it's not even funny. You could have him take on any
Yeah.
number of guys. And you could do like
Mhm.
50-50. Like you could have him lose to Carmelo or beat Dom or lose to Braun or beat Jacob Fatu or what have you.
Yeah.
And then you go into, September, October, and the story isn't, oh, he has to finish the streak. The story is, can he do enough? Can he show enough to be given the number one contender spot heading into Survivor Series? You can, I think he was on SmackDown, right? You can build up every SmackDown he's on. You could try to get him on for a few more appearances that aren't wrestling matches. He'd be there. Who's the GM of SmackDown? Adam Pierce?
SmackDown is Nick Aldis.
Nick. So you could have like Nick Aldis like doing like a weekly update, like I don't know, or hey, he had a big win last week, and you build up to the last like week of October when they announce who will face whoever the champion is at Survivor Series. I think it was like who CM Punk and Cody.
Yeah.
You could be like, is it gonna be CM Punk? Is it gonna be Cody? Is it gonna be somebody else? And then Nick will look at him, and both champions will be in the ring, and Nick will big dramatic pause, and he'll look at him and go, "You got one more shot, make it count," and then basically gesture,
Yeah.
"Who do you want?" Big
Nice.
pop,
Okay.
hype. I think you pick Punk in that point, and maybe even like
Yeah.
Cody steps up, but then Punk just grabs Cody by the shoulder, pulls him back, and steps in front.
Yeah. Play off that Undertaker, Batista, Lashley, and
Cena,
who's Cena. Yeah.
yeah, it's
There you
Cena.
go.
Like have that moment, or maybe even have Obafemi there. Like do the bit that Cena was involved in.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe he picks Oba then,
Oh
because
wow.
that would be incredible. Because
Yeah.
because I think in that point, if Oba loses a 27-minute match to John Cena, no one's going to sit here and say, "Oh, they buried Oba." Now, listen, there will people who say that, but they're stupid and they're dumb and they're stupid. But if you're Obafemi, who's like 30, I think, maybe, and
Yeah.
you eat a loss to John Cena, and John Cena wins the NXT Championship for the first and only time, that's a big trivia note. But also on the flip side, if you beat John Cena in what would be his last world title match, that'd be even bigger. And then you could have him, now granted that was his second to last match. You could then have him face Dom. Like let's say he already faced Dom. Dom beat him for the sake of argument. Dom, starts getting all like chirpy, or chirping him, and John's like, "I got one last ass kicking in me, and kid, I'm gonna take it out on you." And then like Dom's face can just go white, like what? And then what I would do, like, and now listen, Dom's not the perfect answer. Dom's just the most obvious answer in this scenario. If I thought about it, I could probably come up with 5 or 6 guys better than Dom to have his last match with. But let's just go with Dom. You could have Dom come out, Liv Morgan's there. He could come out with the Judgment Day, and then instead of coming out, like they did at Saturday Night's Main Event, you have him come out to Word Life, and then he comes out to uh, I forget what the other one's fucking called. My time is now. Can't see me. My
Yeah.
time is now.
Yeah, by the way, Dom and Liv are the perfect this generation's version. I guess the closest you can get to it in the vein of Triple H, Stephanie, or Edge and Lita,
Yeah,
him to go after.
and I think when he comes out, you got Dom and Liv in the ring. You got Finn and JD McDonough and whoever else is in this stupid fucking faction at this point on the ring side. And then
Yeah.
now, like, you wouldn't be able to do it with the Vision storyline, but the Vision's terrible, so I don't give a fuck. But like, let's say he faces Carmelo and Braun and so on and what have you. I know Jacob Fatu's out with an injury, but let's say he faces all these young guys, right? Maybe as he's coming down and he's seeing all these, and all these Judgment Day guys, a couple of the young guys that he faced and beat or lost to come out behind him, almost as if to say, "We're gonna make sure you get one last shot at gold at Dom's IC belt." Or you could, because like here's the thing, he hasn't really had allies. Like with Sting, you could be like, well, if Luger was in better shape and condition, you could have Luger come out and like second Sting at his retirement match. How great would that be? Or Ric Flair, you could have Arn Anderson. Cena never had that. So the closest thing you would have is like the guys that looked up to him, that championed him along the way. And like those guys, and maybe you throw in a few gals, a few youngins. Maybe even have like Jordan Grace pop up, just to have some opposition to the Judgment Day. And then before Dom and Cena even touch, the group of Cena supporters, if you will, the C Nation, get into it with the Judgment Day guys. And maybe you could throw in guys like Rusev, like some like longtime villains of Cena, just to like really like build up the brawl. Because what I would do is 45 minutes before the end of the show, I would start the fight. I would start this. I'd have Cena come out. You know, Judgment Day would be in the ring. Cena's friends come out or supporters come out. The friends and Judgment Day brawl. Cena doesn't take his eyes off of Dom. Dom's in the ring, doesn't get touched. Liv gets out of the ring. Dom doesn't. Brawl fades into the crowd, and Cena just starts his walk down to the ring, eyes fucking set on Dom. Dom starts the match by basically just kicking him in the balls. And then he does like a lot of heel shit. Cena rallies back and forth. And then you can ultimately decide. I don't think if you're Cena or Sting or Ric Flair or whomever, I don't think you have to win your last match. I think when it's something like Tanahashi and Okada or Sting and the Young Bucks or Cena and Gunther, you can win that match. I think you can win that. I think it's okay. Because none of those guys are going to be elevated by beating Cena or Sting or Tanahashi in his last match. They're already set. You can have Sting. You can have Cena go over. But against Dom, in this scenario, Dom's already beaten Cena once before. I don't have an issue with having Dom beat Cena again, especially if it's clean. But it also sets up the perfect situation where, Cena beats Dom for the IC belt, retires on top, and goes off into the sunset with Golden Glory. And then you set up Dom's next storyline, which is trying to recover from the fact that he got his ass beat by a near 50-year-old. And you set up the storyline of who's going to be the new IC champion. I think there's a lot there. And the fact that they didn't do anything with Cena trying to make new stars or trying to develop new stars or giving him fresh matchups, even just that alone, I think it hurt his retirement run significantly. And I also think that it made it feel like a bunch of rehashed, unoriginal cover songs, basically. It was like watching Metallica do, the best of Neil Diamond on their retirement tour, and you're just like, well, that isn't what we want. And I think if you gave him fresher matchups, younger guys, and didn't try to do the one last time for every fucking match, I think his last year in the business becomes a hell of a lot more entertaining than what we ended up getting. Marcus, what do you think of my idea? Or do you have one of your own you'd like to have seen?
Yeah, I actually like your idea. I was going to ask you about the three things specific, like because
Shoot.
it's so one you never touched the heel thing.
No. No, the heel
Gotcha,
thing was something you should have done a decade ago or never.
yeah,
That would be like,
gotcha,
so
gotcha.
Ricky Steamboat had his final match, like 3 years ago or something like that, with FTR. Um, he played the face because he's Ricky fucking Steamboat. When he came back against
Yeah,
Jericho, he played the face because he's Ricky fucking Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat was one of the greatest faces of all time. Now Cena was never a bad face outside of that Zack Ryder storyline, but for the most part, Cena's always kind of been the hero. So you keep him as the hero. unless you have a narrative where turning heel makes sense, you don't do it. And you certainly don't do it when he's doing his epic final quest. Can you imagine if Frodo just stabbed Samwise in the back in like book two and he's like deuces?
Like instead of Dark Deku, we got Deku joining the league for that first half of that season.
Or
Like
even
what?
even at the end, instead of like All Might fighting All for One and then getting help from Stain and then Bakugo, Deku just like punches All Might into the fucking stratosphere and kills him. No,
Do
no one would be
I
happy with
mean,
that.
or even more capitalize off your on that idea. Deku has to fight All Might, and it's basically in was fighting his whole class because of what his armor entails. And he's not trying to put Deku down, he's trying to get him back. And it's that would have been a
Now listen, that's
alternate
actually
universe.
that's actually a really fucking cool idea.
Yeah.
Like that's a real fucking
With
cool
armor
idea.
on. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that would have been cool in the alternate universe. But yeah, so you don't touch the heel thing.
Never touch the whole thing.
Um,
Not in this last year.
um I don't know how much, like you said, make a stink of the 17 thing. Obviously, you try that. You already said what you gonna do with that, with the all this like, use your last shot to be the to get the big belt and run the Undertaker moment back. Uh, that's cool. I think it would have been a cool thing to, like you said, make a stink if he didn't get the big belt to put his sights on Dom, not just because he's this new punk kid that is just one of the most punchable guys in the company, but that IC title was the one title he never won.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had to bring a blast from Cena past back, which was not Brock, also I'm guessing you never bring Brock into this.
No.
Um, yeah.
No.
So
Beyond the sex pest of it all and the
yeah,
allegations against him, Brock doesn't offer anything anymore. He's
no,
50.
no,
He's
he don't.
slow.
He's another one you're just playing the hits with.
Yeah.
Um, but if you had to bring somebody back from Cena's past that he's had numerous battles with, speaking of somebody who also hasn't, um, feels like he's closer to the end of his career than obviously the beginning, but has also never won that title, and this has kind of been a part of his story for the last couple of years, is Sheamus.
Yeah.
And you could bring that into the fold, and now you got this thing where because Dom is just a great heel in the fact that he's always talking crap, and then when it's time to pay that piper against a mountain that he clearly can't climb, now he's got to try to weasel his way out of this in every possible way. We've seen him do it with Styles, and basically such a good little weasel. But that would have been a good little thing to kind of run back, and kind of I think have Sheamus intertwined with that. But obviously you had a better idea with the certainly than they had with the how things are gonna close out in that whole situation of him not really having friends. Um, would have been an interesting thing. I don't know how you'd because it kind of when you brought that up, it reminded me of what they did getting Kofi to Mania.
Mm-hmm.
The tag team gauntlet and the Uso was like, "Nah, man, you know what I'm saying? We repping Kofi too," and they kind of bowed out. So like, who would you have there? I guess if they had to do a gauntlet or a tournament type of deal, somebody kind of bow out to give Cena them kind of last rites to get after Dom.
I like that idea because it sets up another opportunity where you can make a star. People forget.
Yeah,
People forget. In '98, Dean Malenko and Chris Jericho ruled the cruiserweight division. I think Ray was up with an injury for a little bit. Eddie was in a car accident, and they were trying to get Hoovy over, but Hoovy wasn't at their level yet. So they gave him this segment at the end of Slamboree, the battle royal for the cruiserweight title, where Hoovy and Cycloplay were the last two guys in the ring. Hoovy knew something was up, so he gave Cycloplay the win. The winner of that battle royal automatically would face Jericho in the next match for the cruiserweight title. And in one of the loudest pops in wrestling history, Cyclope takes off his mask and it's Dean Malenko. Hoovy would then become a bit of a star in WCW for that next year and a half or so. up until Vince Russo started to fuck around with him. I think recreating something of that effect with Cena and a young guy is a great idea. I would need some time to really think about who that should be. But let's say that they do like a tournament or battle royal or something like that. I think the first name that comes to mind is either Oba or Braun Breaker, depending on who's a face, who's a heel. But I would add another layer to that. I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe you move the last title match to WrestlePalooza to have more time to give Cena this chance to build up to his match with Dom. But what I would do is actually, now that I think about it, I would actually start the seed planting at the Royal Rumble. I would have Cena, Dom, LA Knight, CM Punk be my final four, just off the top of my head. Because I could run with CM Punk or LA Knight into WrestleMania to face Gunther. And Cena's about to put both Punk and LA Knight over, and then Dom throws out Cena. Night after WrestleMania, Cena takes on whomever for the belt, Cody or Gunther loses. Probably should be Gunther if we're being honest. Loses, Dom chirps a little bit. A couple weeks later, they'll announce something on fucking Saturday Night's Main Event, right? It'll be John Cena tagging up with some of his biggest rivals to take on his other biggest rivals, and you could do like a tag match with Rey Mysterio and John Cena versus Rusev and Sheamus. Cena loses that match. We'll call it like an all-star affair. Cena loses that match because Dom gets involved. But you think Dom's getting involved because his dad's there. Now you can add a few more names. It doesn't just have to be those four, but like so then you build that up. You go into SummerSlam or Money in the Bank or what have you, and maybe Cena's in the Money in the Bank match. One last shot at glory. Dom again. This time maybe accidentally. This time maybe low key cost Cena the match. And then you start building it up. You start building it up. You go into SummerSlam. Maybe you do Cena versus Balor for whatever reason. And then, Dom gets involved again. And now you're starting to see that there's a pattern. Like you're going through this entire year and Dom keeps popping up. And then maybe around September, October, you find out that Dom's been doing this on purpose. Because Dom wants Cena's eyes on him. Because unlike Cena, who believes you can't see, Dom wants to be seen. And who better than to make his legacy than off the back of the man that carried the company for the last 20 years? And like Dom could drop a line like, John, you can see me at Saturday's night's main event in December. And then Cena will kick his ass, and then Dom will be like, no, on second thought, I don't want that. That was too much heat. I'm gonna go hang out with Liv. And then that's when we can cycle back through with the gauntlet of it all. Braun could run through everyone. Carmelo could give him a good fight. Beats Carmelo. You could have Oba involved, or maybe Oba's the guy that wins it. He beats Braun, beats Bronson Reed. And then you go in and like Cena and Bronson, sorry, Cena and Oba are the last two guys. Winner gets Dom at Saturday night's main event, and Dom's sitting there laughing because Cena's all beat up and he's bloodied and he's his hands are up. He's like, I can still fight. And Oba's like, all right, partner, no, but I hate that douchebag, and I'm gonna let you get a shot at him because he needs to get STFU'd one more time. And Oba could just give up the match and allow Cena to get Dom, and then that's when you build up to the final match. I think if you pull that
Mm.
out, I think it's a hell of a story.
Yeah, I like the concept of finishing out the run with the title that he never won against a guy who, like, making Dom a great. version of subverting expectations and doing that probably is making Dom the final boss. Not The Rock, not Brock, not running him and Orton again for Dick. Jesus Christ. Like, not that, but Dominic Mysterio. And real quick, because you talking about getting talent over, who do you put? Because obviously you know how this goes. They run into the guy that they're eventually gonna have a big match with, but they'll run into like a 4-way tag or a regular tag. This has to be intergender because it's Liv causing him as much hassle as it is Dom. They got to do an intergender tag. What young lady do you put with John to lend some of that spotlight to? And obviously, we're not talking Bellas.
Eh, if I have full control, right? Full control. It's Jordan Grace.
Mm,
Like it's just the most.
right.
She's the best wrestler on the roster that isn't a dude.
Yep.
Period. But I do think it would be a little apropos if Liv is just smacking the shit out of John and Nikki does make the save. I think it would be a little apropos. But maybe because I
Mm,
don't know, like I don't. God, I don't watch Raw or SmackDown that often anymore. Is Nikki a face or a heel right now?
Nikki is a heel going out to Stephanie McCurry for that title.
Then I think my idea would work. You think Nikki Bella makes the save? Liv and Dom, pat her out of the ring. Nikki helps up John. She gives him like a little nod and like she hugs him. And then as they start to break the embrace, she has his head, her hands resting on the back of his head. She gives him a kiss on the cheek, turns around, turns back around, kicks him right in the balls.
That actually works.
Right?
Actually, better. That works really good because it's a double thing. Because we saw how badly he booked her as his girlfriend on Total Divas. So
Yeah.
that'll be a play on the thing of like this has been a long time coming, and then obviously she's gonna go into the heel thing or continue the heel thing with because it's the WWE artist. They're not gonna care if she's the heel, but she's helping John. They're gonna like the history with it and all that in the moment. They live for these moments.
Well,
So
here's the
that'll
thing:
be perfect.
you could even have her like her, assault on John be her heel turn. It doesn't have to be where
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
already the heel. Like that heel turn could happen, and then like for the sake of argument, let's say that sets us up for SummerSlam for the sake of argument. You
yeah.
could have Liv, or I guess Liv was still hurt at the time. Whenever it makes sense, right? You could have
Mhm.
Liv and who's in Roxanne Perez? No, Roxanne Perez was a Liv replacement. Who's the
Roxanne is in there and Raquel Rodriguez.
so it was Liv and Raquel at the time. Then you could have Dom, Liv, and Raquel, and then John could be seconded by Jordan and Stephanie Vaquer.
Yeah,
No, not Raquel. It could be Liv and Bree, Liv and Nikki. Jesus Christ, it
yeah.
could be Liv and Nikki and Dom versus Vaquer, Jordan, and Cena. I think that's your if you're trying to do something with the intergender, I think that's your money match right there.
It already works better than most of what we got. And actually quite perfectly with Nikki being on the opposite end of John because of all their history.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually works out. But yeah, I just think that's a great subversion of expectation, making Dom the final boss, not just because it's Dom, who has already had a hell of a run, but that title is the one title he's never won, which is almost as important, if not more than maybe this is just meeting that 17 title. Because we know they manipulate those numbers to dig out anyway.
Yeah, and Jesse Ventura is right. If you win it 17 times, that means you lost it 17 times. That's not impressive. I think Bruno's, Reigns, Cena's second. Cena's second. I think those title reigns mean more than Ric Flair's 16. Like Ric Flair never
Right.
had a truly great run with the belt. So many of his wins and like his world championship runs were unimpressive. Now some of them were real good, but you don't
Yeah.
look at Ric Flair's success as a wrestler in his totality and championship wins, but by how he did in some of his more impressive runs. like putting over Sting, his feud with Harley Race, stuff like that. Dusty. I think it was. Did he have a feud with Harley? I think, yeah, I thought he did. Could be wrong. He definitely had a feud with Dusty though. But like, no, he did because he beat Harley for the belt for the first time. I
Yeah,
digress. What
yeah.
I'm saying though,
Now,
Marcus.
real quick, yeah.
What I'm saying though, Marcus, is that having the 17th is not nearly as impressive as an individual title run that redefines your career. And Cena already had one, so he's fine. What do you want to ask me or tell me?
Well, since you still in a scenario you still in control, and we know you don't do short term booking because you hate people like Delirious and several other people we could go down
Yeah,
the list of.
yeah.
We know what is we got to know what this whole thing with the Mysterio lineage is leading. How much do you have Ray play into that final match?
I think Ray could be one of the guys that seconds Cena to the ring because we had made mention about having guys that would back Cena, and I think maybe what we do is we get a little funky. Maybe at some point, instead of just randomly putting the belts on Styles and Dragon Lee, maybe Ray and Cena win the tag belts, and it could be for a week. But they're arguably the two greatest good guys in WWE's modern history. So why not, right? So then you could build that up into, Dom and Ray, why are you getting in my business, Dad? You're a little, trollop little bitch. Now I don't know. Are they really trying to sell the idea that Dom is actually Eddie's kid?
No, it's tongue in cheek, but
Okay.
it's too hilarious with the history of that to not play into it and with him being a heel.
Now, what would be funny is like if you're like truly Rian Johnson trying to subvert expectations, you would have Ray turn heel in Dom's last match, and then Ray be like, "That was for 2010, bitch." When
Bro,
Cena beat Ray
get
after Ray
out
won the world title.
get 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 out of my head. I thought about that, but I'm like, bro, that's almost worse than Cena's heel turn because nobody's gonna bypass the moment.
No, and he's gonna have the most he's gonna have the most credible argument for why he attacked Cena. Like, yeah, Cena beat his ass after Ray already wrestled a match. Yeah, he should get revenge on him. Absolutely.
But wait a minute, even better, and this is gonna play simply just to crack you. He turns on John, does the 20 says the 2010 thing, and then has John down by the ring and does the two hands on Cena's head. You were supposed to be my friend.
Yes. Now, I think what we could do, the idea, so like so maybe we don't do it like the week after Survivor Series. Maybe we do set up starting at WrestlePalooza, Cena and Dom. Maybe then you start to do a little bit of the greatest hits. Dom starts calling up and bringing in people like he talks to Wade Barrett, talks to JBL. Maybe you get some guys like Armando Alejandro Estrada to do a cameo. Carlito. You start having him, talk to the guys that Cena had his biggest beef with. So like JBL would sit there and maybe something like Armando would be like, I had Umaga. I think he even helped Kali. Or maybe you could just get Davari, have like a twofer. Be like, we had our Kali, we had Umaga, and he still ran through our guys. You don't have enough guys. We had monsters, gods, and he beat them. You have three dudes and two chicks. You need more guys. So then Dom can go and recruit, past rivals, Sheamus and Rusev. And even they could be like, listen, you need to talk to Wade because having more guys just isn't enough. Then he could go and talk to Wade and be like, the one thing I lacked when I faced Cena was a killer attitude. I didn't have it.
And Dom could go and find someone who had a killer attitude, and he could go to JBL, or he could go to who else did he have big fucking feuds with that weren't Triple H and Shawn Michaels? Um,
Yeah, you doing,
could go to Kevin Owens,
uh,
and Kevin Owens could
not
be
for
like,
nothing. I don't know.
what's that?
Saying not for nothing. I don't know if you intentionally did this or not. So most of the guys you mentioned are former IC champ.
Oh, that's a nice
Carlito,
little.
Wade, Umaga.
Well, there's a little something at play there. Next guy I was about to mention after like he goes to see Kevin Owens for the Killer Edge. Next guy, JBL, another former IC champion. And this could be like heading in and like maybe like he's talking to all these, blasts from the pasts about Cena. All of his biggest rivals, former feuds and all that. But he really wants to talk to JBL. Finally it's JBL. And maybe it's just JBL and his hat and duster like we've been seeing him on the indies for the last year. And JBL can be like, so, yeah, I've heard you've been looking to talk to me about how to beat Cena when he's real pissed off. And Dom's like, if anyone knows how to beat someone when they're pissed off, it's you. You beat Kurt Angle and Big Show and Shawn Michaels and all these guys. When Cena's pissed off, how do you beat him? And JBL can just stare him in the eyes and goes, you don't. You run. And like JBL could then like walk out a shot, and then like Dom could be like or like his Adam's apple pops out, and like he grabs his collar because it's starting to get real hard to breathe. You could do so many cool things building up to this match, where it is a little bit down, a little fan service, but it's also building to a brand new moment. And then you could have like some of Cena's biggest rivals who still hate him, like Rusev, like Sheamus, like whomever, siding with the Judgment Day, and then Cena could come out with guys like Ray, maybe Punk, Braun Breaker, Oba, whomever, and you could have a big old Donnybrook to start that fight. And I think that would be one of the coolest visuals you would ever see, like just these dudes throwing at hands, all because one side wants Cena to die and have a legacy that's gone and be buried, and the idea of never give up, finally giving up the ghost, and then the other side's like, John, you have to beat Dom. This isn't about winning the IC belt. This isn't about proving you still got it at 48. This is about you know that slogan on your towel, never give up, those three words. Not about you can't see me or ruck pools or basic thugonomics. It's about those three words that little kids haven't been embracing for 20 years. Never give up. If you lose to Dom, you will prove that you gave up. Don't give up. And then that whole fight, John's fucking focused. And you basically tell NBC and Peacock, like, we're going to go a little violent. Sorry, not sorry. And you have a bloody brawl. You have Dom get his ass kicked, but then you have Dom rear up and start kicking Cena's ass to the point where like both men are bleeding profusely, just like Dom's. I don't know what his relationship to Eddie was, maybe surrogate uncle or what have you. But you flash back to Dom to Eddie's like bloody brawl with JBL and John Cena's bloody brawl with JBL. And maybe you have JBL on commentary just to really bring it all together, right? And I think, John beats him. Dom goes for a frog splash. John, nips up, catches him, hits him, covers him with one arm in a last desperation, and then his allies are around the ring, and they count three and they celebrate. And while I think Sting's retirement was great, I think instead of trying to do exactly beat for beat what they did with Sting, instead of having the big final send off, like the big promo and all that, you have Cena in the ring with like Punk and his other allies, and everyone's celebrating. And then JBL could grab the mic, and because he's the one who started Cena's run as a main eventer, and he could be like, John, you got any final words? And as like people start to clear out to give him the ring and what have you, he just looks at JBL, good old Jibble, and he goes, I never gave up. drops the mic, leaves, holds the belt over his head as he walks away. I think that would be top 15 most iconic shots in wrestling history. Instead, we have him smiling, almost like that John Hamm meme that's been going around on social media, where he's just like dancing.
Oh,
Talk to me. And then he taps like a little bitch. Couldn't even go out on a shield. Couldn't just get the three, like the three hands. Went out like a bitch.
yeah, it's gonna be you when you eventually have a kid, and he thinks he's gonna like I'm gonna get dad today, and then I'm gonna catch him half asleep and try to choke you out. And then you're like, this is so, and then knowing you, you're like, this is so adorable, and you're gonna lightly tap his shoulder, you're gonna lightly tap his hand. Like I get what that was for him, but it made the moment so bad looking. Like I get it, he smiled like it's over and he kind of tapped, but it made it look so. Like I said, the only thing that was worse than that was how fast Gunther tapped the J. I don't even think had a good sleeper locked in when he beat him at Mania.
If there
You know,
was a younger wrestler, like a younger, let's say if Kurt Angle was 20, like 28, 29, 30 years old, right?
yeah,
And you had him needing a big win. And you come in, Cena's his last opponent. I would have seen a tap to a guy like Kurt Angle, or like let's say Chad Gable was 30, not 40. Let's say that they had somebody in NXT who actually knew how to wrestle and was like a big submission guy, ground and pound, just violence. Yeah, you have seen a tap or go unconscious. Gunther isn't really a guy that I would say is a big submission guy, and
yeah,
certainly not in our scenario with Dominic. So I do think that how you lose is more dependent on the guy you face. I think
yeah,
Gunther should have just like let's say we go with what exactly happened. I think what you do is you do Gunther power bombs. You just bam, Cena gets up, bam, Cena gets up, bam, Cena grabs the ropes, but he pulls himself up. Another power bomb, another power bomb, and maybe you make it a last man standing, just for shits and giggles. And it takes like 12 power bombs or what have you before Gunther can finally put Cena down. You do that, peak. Even with the terrible buildup that this all had, I still think it would have been awesome. But sadly, it wasn't. That being said, Marcus, um, we have another retirement coming around the bend. I think we got like, what, 2.5 weeks? And then Tanahashi will retire against Okada. And correct me on his name, Yota Tsuji is facing Kaneshige Takeshita. And could be the end of the IWGP World Heavyweight title, at least in its current incarnation. So the next time we're on the air, which
yeah.
I think next week might be a little hard to do, because it's going to be the week of Christmas. One more sleep till Christmas. Let's look at the calendar. Yeah, next week is going to be the 23rd. We may not have a show next week. Our next show may be
Yeah.
the 30th.
Well, yeah, Yoda Suji. Yeah, it's looking to beat Konosuke, which is no easy task, and kind of bring back because I thought it was that to me the IWGP Intercontinental title was a beauty of a title. One, and it had such a long lineage. I was like, them merging it just didn't feel right, and I thought the IWGP Heavyweight Championship just looked like a real heavyweight championship, and I felt like when they merged and they came up with that new design, I don't know if I've ever gotten into it.
I haven't. I thought it looked stupid as shit.
Yeah.
There are four titles that never should get a redesign. Or never should have. The NWA World Championship, the IWGP, what is it, the third belt they have, the first TNA World Title, and of course the Big Gold Belt.
Mhm.
And all but one of those belts have been redesigned, and all three of those redesigns suck. I
I want
still
to
don't
know
like the new TNA belt.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it, but that big one they had, I had to get used to that, but I ended up really loving that one. But that Eagle one was just it was class personified.
It
I'd
was.
also like to honorable mention the Ring of Honor one that Jay won
Okay.
with the Reeves on it. The
Oh, you like that, the circle one with like it was like Greek faunage that you would see in like the
yeah,
Olympics. Yeah, I know exactly
yeah,
what we're talking about. I was a more of a fan of the one that Gresham had.
okay,
That more laid back, simplistic design where it was silver. I liked that. That was dope.
yeah.
But that's just me. But I do agree. I do agree. Ring of Honor shouldn't have changed their belts either. Now, which one should they have changed it from? We can disagree on that. But yes, I do
Yeah.
agree. So yeah, outside of that though, should be a rather slow kind of next couple days.
Yeah.
Uh, TNA is going to get ready to start doing their TV show. It's going to be
Yeah.
Santana versus Kazarian on AMC's debut.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if it's any good.
Uh, that's gonna be good. Shout out to the Mick Foley winning the internet today.
Yes, he
It's
did.
funny.
Yes, he
Somebody
did.
tweeted, somebody was like, a man that took that many chest shots is making more sense than most of the people in that damn company. Yeah.
God bless Mick Foley. All right. With that being said, we will reconvene here in a little bit, you and I. But I do believe that's a good stopping point for this week's episode. I do have two in the can that I have not put up yet that I think will make for a good stand-in for next week, should we need it. So I think
Yeah.
we're gonna do good there. This will go up tonight, though. I'm gonna start uploading this as soon as we're done. That being said, I think we're good. Be sure to follow us on our website at realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCRP.com. Marcus, you can be found on your personal socials at Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
That is me.
You can find him there or on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennshow, also on Twitter. That's where they upload, not upload, but they post links to their show on Twitter. So if you want to listen to the next episode of The True Penny Show, you can. Marcus, what is on the docket for you guys over there at The True Penny Show?
Yeah, obviously closing out the World Tag League, so check that out. And also, I think this weekend we're going to be covering Ring of Honor's last pay-per-view offering of the year, Final Battle. So be on the lookout for that.
Heard a lot of good things about Final Battle, too. We will probably on our next show, I would say. We'll talk about our Wrestler of the Year awards nominees. The only thing I got to build out a little bit is the male feud of the year, which shouldn't be too hard to do. I got a new job doing Firewatch stuff where I just ensure that a building doesn't burn down. It's a real fucking easy job. And I was able to spend most of the last 2 nights that I worked there on Saturday and Sunday, into Sunday and Monday morning, building out the nominees list. So the nominees for this year are pretty set. I am gonna send it to you so you can add anyone, and then
Yeah.
we'll start tailoring it down, poking holes in arguments as to why everyone will be there. Uh, Throw it over to maybe Swish and Ace, see if they're up for doing a little hole poking. We'll try to keep it to 6 or 8 per category, and then
Yeah.
we'll send it out for votes, and then we'll announce our 2025 winners. I think at the start of the year. I am a lot more ahead on this one this year than I was last year. So like, we're actually gonna have it on time. Yay!
Nice.
So, all right. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, CHEDNERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at CHEDSPHOTOHUT. You can find us on the website at realnerdcorp.com or on the Twitter at NERDCRP. We're also on YouTube and Twitch at Wrestling Underground, so check us out there. For Marcus, I'm Chad. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving us a chance. Thanks for... Well, I fucked that up. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us.
Good night, me.